Hello, my creeplings. Today we're doing an interesting one from the 90s called Dr. Giggles. Um, I remember seeing the trailers for this one as a kid, but I never actually watched it. This is a first time watch for me. And it had some very interesting points, but you can tell it was made shortly after the big slasher craze of the 80s when the MPAA, who does movie ratings, was kind of cracking down on violence and stuff and honestly, the gore could have been better. But let's get into it and we'll discuss. So this is Dr. Giggles. It was released in '92. It was an October release, so released for the spooky season. Written and directed by Manny Koto, I believe is how it's pronounced, or Koto? I believe it's Koto. I will probably be saying Koto. If you recognize the name, he's worked in television a lot. He created a handful of television shows, one of which was a Showtime sci-fi show called Odyssey 5. He's directed a handful. He's written for a handful. So the guy had some experience, and I believe he worked right up until his death, which was, I don't remember, but he's since passed. Our cast list is pretty impressive. We have a young Holly Marie Combs from Charmed. I think this is one of her earlier works where she was a lead. We have Larry Drake as our title character. Now, Larry Drake is a character actor that I have followed for a while. I think my favorite thing he's done is he played Durant in Sam Raimi's Darkman. But I have seen him pop up for several things. Apparently he was also on LA Law, and unfortunately he has since passed. Yeah, I'm going to say that one more time, too. We have Cliff DeYoung as Holly Marie Combs' character, whose name is Jennifer, by the way. Jennifer's dad. Cliff DeYoung is another character actor who plays a lot of dads. He played the dad in The Craft, Mr. Bailey. He also has a very interesting early credit, and this is a movie we may discuss at some other time when it comes to our morbid musicals. There was actually a sequel of sorts to Rocky Horror where he took over the role as Brad. That movie deserves a long video of its own. There's a chance we will talk about it, because I know eventually we'll talk about Rocky Horror. If not this season, next season. Probably this season. I can't help myself. I'm getting off topic. I apologize. We also have Glenn Quinn as Jennifer's boyfriend, Max. Now, you'll look at him and go, where do I know him from? He was Becky's boyfriend / husband on Roseanne, and unfortunately, he has since passed. Noticing a trend here. Other notable names. Michelle Johnson plays the dad's girlfriend. We saw her in Waxwork, so I have a review on that. Go back and take a look at it. And then Doug E. Doug Sanka, I believe, from Cool Runnings. He plays one of the teenagers in this. Solid story. We have and it starts off with a bang. We have an inmate at an asylum who has let the lunatics loose and is performing a surgery on, I'm assuming it was a doctor at the asylum, and then he escapes. Now, this patient is nicknamed Dr. Giggles because he has a very kind of type giggle. Sometimes it makes things creepier, other times it gets on your nerves. But coming from a guy that looks like Larry Drake, it is very unnerving. He escapes. There's some pretty decent kills, but they're light on the gore. So, the reason for this is the 80s was the height of the gore slasher films, and then during the 90s, I don't want to say horror wasn't as popular, but we started getting a lot more psychological horror, simply because the ratings board here in the United States, it's the Motion Picture Something Association. So the MPAA, they're in charge of, when you submit your movie, of giving it the rating or telling you what you need to cut to get a certain rating. They were cracking down on the gore effects and gory movies at the time. So this was intended to be a lot bloodier and probably a lot more viscera. KNB effects, Greg Nicotero and Berger, their outfit, they were involved with some of the effects on this. So we know it could have been, lots of splatter, lots of red, lots of viscera, but we didn't get that. And I think that was the big disappointment in this movie for me, was it wasn't enough. If you can think of a medical implement, though, it was probably used to kill somebody in this movie. So he escapes and goes back to his hometown. What's it called? Moore High. There's a whole backstory. He's actually Evan Rendell Jr. His father was the town doctor, and his wife, Evan Jr.'s mother, had a heart condition, and near the end of everything, Dr. Rendell Sr. kind of, and started killing people to get a heart, to give his wife a heart transplant. Now, this would have been in the 50s before the real techniques that we're aware of now were developed. So he killed a lot of people just to end up with his wife dead, him dead, and Evan Jr. disappearing. The town lore is that, God, I'm sorry, I'm itchy today because of my allergies. I don't know what's going on, but my allergies are super acting up. I'm a little itchy and snotty, and if I sneeze, I apologize. They don't know what happened to the kid. The town thinks he might still be running around somewhere. He comes back with the sole intention of revenge for his father. So he starts picking off high school students, because let's face it, high school students are easy to pick off. While this is all getting set up and happening, we are introduced to Jennifer, her boyfriend Max, and their circle of friends. This is the last day of school. There is a carnival later that night. You find out Jennifer has a defective heart valve. She just recently lost her mother to a heart condition, I believe. And she's just not happy. She's has a doctor's appointment, and they're like, okay, so everything's fine right now, but we need you to wear a heart monitor. You can't do anything strenuous. You can't drink. You can't, basically he just killed her. The doctor just killed her summer plans. So she's down in the dumps. She's down in the dumps pretty much all night. Her boyfriend Max is trying to figure out what's going on. She finally tells him. So, like I said, Dr. Giggles is picking off her friends one by one, or in some cases 2 by 2, throughout the entire night. He goes to pick her off and realizes she's got a heart condition. And his focus shifts from revenge for his father to, I'm going to cure this girl and prove my father's theory's right. Cuckoo. Eventually there's a chase down where he gets her boyfriend, and the girl that was trying to get her boyfriend. So there's Jennifer, Max, and some girl that's interested in Max. So she's trying to take him away from Jennifer in a fun house, a maze of mirrors. This is actually shot very well. I had to go through and rewatch it a couple times just to figure out what all the action was going on. Superbly shot for a hall of mirrors. Definitely liked that part. Jennifer gets captured by Dr. Giggles. He tries to set up an operation at I don't know how things worked in the 50s, but it seemed like Dr. Rendell Sr. had an entire hospital in the sub-basement of his home. I mean, I understand that, like, back then, when they were also still making house calls, they would have a home office. That didn't surprise me. What surprised me was there was a waiting room and a couple of, like, patient rooms, and in one of those patient rooms, I think it was a hastily set up OR by Junior. There's some back and forth. He knocks her out, starts to attempt to operate. Cops show up. She escapes. there's a lot going on. I'm going to have to rewatch this to really solidify what happened in my mind. But eventually she ends up at the real hospital because the events of the night basically caused her heart condition to exacerbate and she needs to go into immediate surgery. Dr. Giggles shows up again after being presumed dead from a gunshot wound in the house going up in flames. And he tries to perform the surgery there. I don't know how she managed to do this either, but she manages, they're just putting her under with the anesthesia. She manages to get the mask off and be aware enough to finally take him out, which was kind of interesting, the way they did that. And then, of course, he gets, his last line is a fourth wall breaker. Is there a doctor in the house? All happy ending, blah, blah. Okay, like I said, the story was pretty solid. The effects of what we saw of them were a good tease. I would have liked to have seen the original cut of this film. If it's out there, somebody let me know where I can get a hold of it. Because, I mean, when you have, like, teams like K&B behind it, you know there were going to be some good effects going on. But, again, because of the Ratings Association, we didn't get the film that I think they wanted us to get. Although it is interesting, because if you can think of a medical implement, they use it to kill somebody. Bone saws, the nose thing, thermometer, EKG, not EKG, what's the thing that starts your heart? Clear, that thing, whatever that's called. Some homemade implements, lots of injections, and it was pretty decent. It is one of those that I'm definitely going to say, if we're going to have, it does border on horror comedy. Actually, it doesn't border, it actually is a horror comedy. If we're doing a horror comedy night, or if I, again, want to baby step a teenager into more gory, more suggestive stuff, because, let's face it, horny teenagers, you don't want an 8-year-old to watch that, but maybe a 14-year-old can handle it. I leave that up to you parents to decide. Sorry, I thought I was going to hiccup. I leave that up to you parents to decide what's appropriate for your children. I'm just saying, you know, if it were me or any of the people I knew growing up, this would be about where we would start getting into, okay, a 15-year-old could watch this. They're probably hearing worse in school. Hell, they're probably doing worse in school at this rate. So I'm not too worried about them getting ideas when it comes to suggestiveness and things like that. All in all, not a bad movie. Fair to middling. I would definitely watch it again if it were part of a collection. Like if I'm, you know, going to introduce a friend of mine to Larry Drake and his roles. Definitely. Or one of those. I didn't know they were in that movie. You know, like with Dougie Doug and Holly Marie Combs. Or if I just wanted something that wasn't all full-on gore because I'm not into it that night, but I still want a decent story. Dr. Giggles is the film for you. If you like seeing, you know, medical implements being used to do all kinds of interesting things, the stomach pumping one, that one had me. I expected that one to be gorier, but I liked the thought process behind that. I really did. Score's pretty good. There was a cover of Doctor Doctor, you know, Doctor Doctor, give me the news. That song, there's a cover of that over the end credits. That's pretty good. I want to say it was, who was it? Does it say? Bad Company, the band, the lead singer Paul Rogers covered that. So if you're a fan of like late 70s, early 80s rock bands, that'd be something to add to your list. Solid little movie. Would suggest it. I would suggest other things over that, but you know, this one wasn't bad. Definitely if you're a Larry Drake fan, watch this. If you want to know what Holly Marie Combs started out doing, watch this. If you want something that's got a solid story and just a little bit of, you know, fun takeouts, watch this. If you've got a thing for medical horror movies, watch this. But on that note, I got another movie to watch. And we're in the home stretch, guys. We were halfway through the month. So I'm just going to say it again. Thank you so much. Good night, my creeplings. and I'll see you next time.